Entrepreneurial freedom. Bad news, most startups, most corporations fail. You know. Good news, there are some mistakes that are avoidable, and one mistake, doing too much at once, can even be solved quite easily with this tool of the 5 systems that we're going to learn right now. So let's dive into it. First, what is the common mistake? Why many entrepreneurs struggle and their startups even die? So one thing is, when you see team meetings and planning sessions, if they even do planning sessions, because many entrepreneurs, they are just so into operations and into surviving and into solving everyday problems and repairing bugs, that they do not enough focus, which means having a monthly planning session, finding the current bottleneck, and then focusing on exactly this one bottleneck and solving it, so that the whole thing gets again into positive momentum. So let's dive into it. First, what is a bottleneck? There's a wonderful book. I read it as a Kindle, but it's a wonderful book, The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt, which is basically a novel about how to manage well. And the idea is you can have much better results with your business if you focus on the critical path. The critical path is where the bottleneck is. The bottleneck is in the whole chain of value you deliver for the people you care about. In the whole chain, there is one weak point. And the theory of constraints is if you solve the bottleneck problem, everything else will be much more productive and much more effective in an exponential way. So find the weak spot, improve that part, and the rest will take care of itself automatically. The flow of the value chain will be much better. So the idea is find the bottleneck. How do you do that? It's not difficult. It's quite easy. So there is 5 systems, which is in generic in every business. So no matter what business you have 5 systems in place, which is to attract people, to nurture the relation to them, to close them, to convert to buyers, to deliver the solution to their problem, and to retain, cross-sell, upsell. So this is the 5 systems: attract, nurture, close, deliver, retain. When you have these 5 systems in place, you can do a monthly evaluation of how they are going. So bring together your team, think of all the 5, and go through them. You can do from 1 to 100 for the first discussion. And then you rate them. How good are we in attracting? So how many new leads do we have per week, per month? What do they cost us? How do we nurture them? So how is our relation? What do we teach? How do we convey value through stories? What is our way of delivering small chunks of value every week for them? How do we create the famous 7 contact points when after that we can go into a closing discussion and selling? So when is our tipping point from marketing to sales, which in our model is exactly between system 2 and system 3. So after nurturing, you go into closing. Then you have delivering, which is what your value proposition was all about. Now you have to show that you really do it. So you solve the problem. And if you solve the problem, then you can think about system 5, retaining them, and even cross-selling, which means if they are happy with their solution, they will tell their friends. And if they are happy with the solution, they may like staying in Facebook groups or forums or whatever platforms you build, because they will have other problems. And if they trust you and you are their trusted advisor, they will ask you also for solution ideas on the other problems. So that's the 5 systems: attract, nurture, close, deliver, retain. Now we even, at Steady Sprints, we even have all our folder structure according to these 5 systems. So in our team folder, it has 5 folders, and it says attract, nurture, close, deliver, retain. And whatever we do, like a document or a lead magnet, or we build a concept, we really put it into there. And once a month, we do this analysis. So we come together as a team. It's 4 people in our case, and we say, okay, let's go through them, 1 to 100. How good are we in attracting, in nurturing, in closing, in delivering, in retaining? And we do first this discussion, and then we just make green, yellow, red, green, yellow, red, and then we pick the red one. If there is a red one, we pick one red one. If there is, the worst thing is yellow, we pick a yellow one, and if the worst thing is green, we pick the green one. But there is always one bottleneck. So let's say we have the bottleneck in attracting. So we think that we have the bottleneck in attracting. So we would mark it red, and we would say this is the bottleneck we decide to work on. And we put up a series of sprints. Sprint is a 7-day intense work on invalidating or validating an assumption. And we would work in sprints until we solved that. Now, what do most companies do? They do not identify the bottleneck. They do not focus on one thing until it's solved, because they do many projects at once, and they do also a little bit of social media improvements, and also a little bit of IT improvements, and also checking this conference because everybody's doing that in my industry, and also trying out this new app because everybody's using Asana, so we will try out Asana. But what is Asana or this conference exactly solving? Which of the 5 fields is the bottleneck right now, and how does implementing Asana solve that right now this week? That's the question. Also, when you do the budgeting for the month, you should budget according to the bottleneck. So how much money should we put into recruiting new people, or improvements in IT, or in legal contracts and joint ventures? Well, it depends on the bottleneck. Put most of your budget into the bottleneck until it's solved. And then you move to the next bottleneck, and you will put the budget into the next one. That's how you do a bottleneck-driven budgeting, which is much more precise and much more effective than just a general budgeting. 10% goes in that and 5% goes in that. Not really helpful to your current situation. Tailor your budget. So these are the 5 systems. You identify them, you pick one, and then you go into it. Now, what do you do next? You write your assumptions down, why you think that this is the bottleneck. And the assumption, a hypothesis, this is the scientific method. You write down the assumption, you build the smallest possible increment of a solution, and then you try and test it. And at the end, the reality is always in the market. So the market will tell you if your assumption is validated or invalidated. At the end, that's the only feedback loop that counts to see if the hypothesis is invalidated or validated. We have a template for that, the innovation card, which you can use, makes your life easier. So strategysprints.com/tools, you will find the innovation card, where it makes it very easy for you to write down the assumption, to write down how will you test if this assumption is invalidated or validated. And you will also have on the back side how you can track the progress in that experiment. The best thing you can do is to run multiple parallel experiments at once. So if you say we have these 3 assumptions and we want to find out which one is true, well, you test that, you test that, you test that, and in 1 week we will talk again. You limit the time to, let's say, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours of analysis. You limit the time of building the prototype to, again, 5 hours, 6 hours. And then you say, okay, whatever I did build in 6 hours, I stop and I go and test it with 5 users, 5 clients. potential clients. 5. Why 5? Google has done research on that, and if you add more clients, like 6 or 7 or 8 testers, it doesn't bring you more reliable data than 5. So go for 5. So these are the 5 systems and how you can do that. Now try it. So go through the 5 systems, rate them from 1 to 100, discuss with your team, and at the end color them green, yellow, red. Pick one and start solving it. As an example, I had a client who said, Simon, I have a lead generation problem. So, okay, let's dive into it. How many leads do you have per week? How many per month? And they had a lot of leads per month. But he said, well, we have 1,000 leads in our mailing list. And they subscribed. So, but I need 3,000 to test the product. And I was like, really? You need 3,000? So wait a moment. Before you say this assumption that you need 3,000, let's see what's the conversion rate. So we went to system 2, the nurturing, and said, okay, how many people read your 7 emails that come after subscribing? And then we went into the conversion rate of the sales process. So from marketing to sales, we said, how is the closing rate? You would like usually a closing rate of more than 20%. If you can also have 80% and 90% if you do the nurturing very well and the segmentation, but and the belief system. But let's start with a general 20% that you want to have in order to have a bucket without holes. That's my picture. If your bucket has holes, then it doesn't help to bring more water in it and more water. And that was exactly the problem there, because they didn't write down their assumptions. They thought they need to generate more leads. Where the problem and the bottleneck was the conversion rate. And later on we saw it was in the nurturing phase, because they did talk to every client the same without specifying and segmenting the audience. So they thought lead generation is where we have to put more money in. So they went into Facebook ads and let's put $3,000 more dollars into Facebook ads. But then they had more leads and that didn't solve the problems, because they had just more water in a bucket that has holes in it. So first thing, repair the holes. That's exactly the bottleneck idea. First thing, go to the conversion rate. So we went there and said, how do you convert? How do you close the leads? And I said, could you make a video of it and show me? They had no process. They had no SOP for closing. So there was no sales script. And there wasn't a first discovery call and a second demo call, and they didn't record them and learn out of them. So the problem was in sales. And now you see why this is valuable to do that in these 5 stages, because then you find out where your current bottleneck is, you focus on that, and you sprint until it's solved. And only after it is solved, you start solving the next problem. Okay, hope that was helpful. And now, yeah, start doing it and tell me how it went.
Hi, entrepreneurs. No matter if you are going from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 10, you are not alone. Our community of over 16,000 entrepreneurs has done remarkable stuff in the last few years. We've seen single parents start their business and grow it to 7 figures. We've even seen couples succeed as entrepreneurs together in life and work. Now, we've created workshops that can propel you to freedom and growth without needing to fly away from family and friends. Our new workshops work from anywhere, anytime, on any device. Let us help you be found when you are needed the most by the clients you truly want to work with. Check strategysprints.com/solutions to build up your business and have fun doing it.